Welcome to the Hedgehog Watchdog. I'm your host, Evan Saxon, joined by Greg Baldwin. We're the meme team behind Libertarian Party South Dakota. The South Dakotans Against Prohibition. Today's episode is brought to you by Pinkcoin. You can check them out at pinkcoin.com. Our guest today is the Region 6 representative of the National Libertarian Party, Mr. John Phillips Jr. How you doing today, Mr. Phillips?
Good, man. I'll tell you what, that's an impressive intro you guys have. A lot of these podcasts don't have anything like that. That was really well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we try to put on a good production for South Dakota.
Yeah, Devin does good on those intro videos.
I do the intro videos, and Greg invites all our guests on, basically.
But, division of labor, right? So that's good.
Yeah. So I guess our first question for our guests is, how did you get involved with the Libertarian Party for the first time?
The first time was back in was it 96? One of Harry Brown's runs at a very low level, but I didn't actually join the party. But I really liked Harry Brown. I then kind of faded in and out and kind of tangentially around people in the Libertarian Party for a long time after that, and mostly in pursuit of other things. Like I was a big hemp advocate and marijuana legalization advocate and things like that. But voted for Gary Johnson in 2012, which really brought the party more fully back on my radar than it had been. And then in 2016 for his run, volunteered a little bit for his campaign at very low level again, kind of handing out signs and those kind of things, but formed my county chapter, joined the National Party and the state party. That was actually the second time I joined the National Party. The first time I'd done what a lot of people did. I joined for like a year and then never renewed. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. So.
Hell yeah. What were you doing before you became the regional representative for Region 6? Were you in the state Illinois executive committee or anything? Or
I was, because at the time, Illinois, the way the executive committee was set up was if you were a county chapter chair, you were automatically on the executive committee.
Awesome.
Now they don't do it that way. Now they have regions and those kind of things because we're on the cusp of becoming an established party in Illinois. And once you do that, Illinois has a lot of laws about how you have to be formed. Fucking state. And so now we kind of jumped ahead and said, okay, we're going to be that way, set up that way so that we're ready to roll when we do hit it. So
yeah. What are some of the ballot access laws in Illinois? I know South Dakota, I guess we have it pretty easy here. I guess we take it for granted a little bit in South Dakota.
Okay, so if you're not a member of the Republican or Democratic parties, you have to then you're either a new you're automatically what they call a new party, even though the Illinois Illinois organization has been around for decades. We're still a new party. And for a new party to reach established party status, you have to get 5% of the vote in a statewide race. And they include the presidential in that. But and then you have to keep getting it. So it's they're looking to get you knocked back off after you get it. If you're a new party, the petitioning requirements are astronomical. Statewide races have a fixed number, but everybody else is so Democrats and Republicans, if I'm remembering the numbers right, they have to get 0.5% of the people who voted for them or for that party in the last election for that position. So if you're running for state Senate and you're running as a Republican, 0.5% of the people who ran for that position in the last, you have to get that many people to sign your petition. If you're a new party, it's 5% of the vote total. So, so it gets astronomically higher. Examples from small to big. I got thrown off the ballot a few years back trying to run for county board because I turned in enough signatures and they challenged them. And it was actually while we were in New Orleans for the national convention. And so I get the notification that I'm getting challenged while I'm in New Orleans. and I don't get back until the evening before my challenge hearing, and I have to be there at 9 o'clock the next morning, prepared to defend those signatures. I'm just like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But in that race, my two opponents were both Republicans. Had to get 36 signatures. I had to get a minimum of 435, which of course they challenged. I turned in well over that, and they challenged, and they knocked some off legit, because I'd go to events and I'd just go around and get people sign, and people would pass around their whole table and everybody would sign it. Well, a few of the people wouldn't live in my district. But then they knocked off enough. Yeah, but I still had enough after that. Then they knocked off more because it was didn't match the signature on file. Well, for me to even get the access to the signature records to be able to compare them was going to cost me money. And then I was going to have to go to all these people and say, hey, sign this affidavit that's really your signature, or say, hey, come on, this is a close match. Come on, guys, and go defend them all. And I just didn't have time to do that. So I got.
Yeah, but if you're like me, my signature doesn't look twice. They're the same twice,
Right. And so that's a small example. 36 to 435. I mean, that's still a big difference. And of course, they never get challenged on their 36. But another race, one that kind of got national attention a few years ago, was a guy up in Chicago area who declared to run for the state representative position as a Republican. And he was a literal Nazi. I mean, pictures of him in full regalia. I mean, all that stuff. Just a literal Nazi. But he said he was a Republican. So he had to get 600 signatures. For us to challenge him, put a Libertarian in that race, because of the way the district, he only had to get 600 because not very many people voted Republican in that district. But a lot of people voted in that district. And so for us to challenge to get 5% of that, we were going to have to get something like 14,000 signatures.
Wow.
Valid signatures, before you even get challenged. For governor, we have to get 25,000, which other states say, oh, well, we have to get more than that. That's true. You do. But we have to get 25,000 in a 90-day window after the primaries. So we've already lost all that campaign time because we're not even in the primaries. They've all gotten their signatures way earlier. And we have to get 90 in that 90-day window. So we have to get 25,000 valid, which means we have to get close to 50 because they're gonna challenge. Now, the last couple challenges, we beat them. So the last time they didn't end up challenging. And then during COVID, last year, we actually won our lawsuit. So we didn't have to petition for our statewide races because we'd made it the last couple times. And they reduced our signature requirements to 10% of what the number was before. So my 435 would have been 43 or 44, depending on where you round, which was still more than their 36, but would have been a much more doable number. Yeah. So, but now that's going to be over, and so next election cycle we're going to be back in. So luckily, we just had a big win here at the local races just last week, with Sasha Cohen winning his county clerk position, which was a great race. I mean, he caught that it was unopposed. He jumped in. Then the established parties tried to file a write-in candidate late, thinking, oh, well, and they got bit by the write-in bug that everybody, it's hard to campaign as a write-in person. Even if you've got name recognition, you show up and people see a name and a write-in, people forget. So anyway, he did a great job with that race, won with like 83%.
Nice.
So that was a big win.
Yeah, dude, it's always good to hear about big wins for Libertarians.
That's crazy about 25,000 signatures for governor, and then you try to shoot for 50,000. To put it in perspective, we only needed 30,000 signatures to get Amendment A, which was the legalization of cannabis, on the ballot. They collected like 50,000, like you said,
right.
But they only needed 30, and that's a statewide ballot amendment. So that's crazy.
Well, then, I mean, Ohio's got some screwy things too. I'm not as familiar with them because they're not in my region, but I know that to get it established, their party is established party, they have to collect like 100,000 signatures. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
and then and they have weird things about getting on the ballot with the Libertarian beside their name versus independent. You get in Illinois, it doesn't matter. And if you're any party other than Democrat or Republican, the signature requirements are the same. Ohio does have a way to get on as an independent, and you won't have your party name next to you. That's substantially lower, and we've gotten presidential candidates on that way several times. But then of course they say, oh, well, even if that person met the requirement to make the party status, you didn't file as a party with a party name on there, so it doesn't count, and they screw it. So typical duopoly. They're out to hold on to their power, and they look for any way to screw us. And Ohio gets pretty hosed pretty hard on that. So.
So I kind of asked here. Let me, since we're talking since we're talking kind of ballot access, real quick. I kind of had this question when Karen Ann Harlos was on. It's more of a thought, I guess, than a question. But how do you feel knowing how hard it is to get ballot access in some of these states, and then like you were just saying, in Illinois you need 5% to continue ballot access. South Dakota, it's 2.5%. Some states, 5% is what I kind of hear as a baseline. But so would you say you're more willing to nominate like a moderate libertarian to get those to win those races? Because you're a pretty principled person, obviously.
I go back and forth on that. But my answer is honestly right now is just that it hasn't worked. We've tried that many times. Gary Johnson and Bill Weld is the most recent example, or Joe Jorgensen. Joe Jorgensen honestly was fairly moderate as a libertarian, Spike was not. Spike is definitely very outspoken and does a great job. But Joe was, and it hasn't worked. If those moderate voices don't get attention, they don't. Now, I would say on local races, maybe that's more important. And you don't want to get crazy with it and have somebody that makes all your down ballot candidates look bad. I mean, I wouldn't nominate David Duke. It would get us a lot of attention, all bad. And our down ballot candidates would have to, they would totally discredit them. I'm well known for saying, and I'm honestly not the greatest example of it, but I know people who are much better examples of it, like Spike Cohen, that you can give an outspoken, principled message without being an asshole and without being a nut job. And that's what we should be looking for. We should be looking for somebody who's willing to take it on the team, just take it out there and lay it out there, a principled, strong message without being a jerk about it, and being able to reach people where they're at and discuss with them how it affects what they're looking for. The fact that we're anti-minimum wage, and all these people go, oh, well, how does that, that doesn't help us. That screws us because we need that minimum wage. Well, no, let me talk to you about how me being opposed to minimum, why that affects you. And how the minimum wage actually negatively affects you by killing jobs, and that every time they raise the minimum wage, they see something like a 4 or 5% drop in employment and entry-level employment, and that affects people in minority neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods and people who didn't graduate high school or just barely graduated high school. It affects all them dramatically more than it does anybody else, and But of course, they don't hear that, and so when we say, "Hey, it actually is keeping you from getting employed and keeping you from finding gainful employment, and we're here to empower you and help you take your power back." Finding ways to cross that gap is sometimes difficult. Sometimes they don't want to hear it. Not everybody can hear it. Not everybody will listen. But if you can make those gains a little bit at a time, it builds up. And next thing you have people winning local races, at least because they liked what that presidential candidate had to say. So I guess from our perspective, or I'm not going to lump Devin in, but being from South Dakota,
I can't say how those presidential races affected other states, but the 2016 Gary Johnson campaign gained us ballot access through 2020. He got 5.5% of the vote here. Jo Jorgensen, although we ended up not needing her because like Devin ran for Public Utilities Commission and he got 5% of the vote, and we got our guest in the second hour ran for U.S. House and he got 19 or 20% of the vote. But either way, Jo Jorgensen would have got us ballot access because she got 3% of the vote here. But the other big thing that I kind of see a lot of people nationally they get real dismissive of the gains that are made during those presidential elections. Because, like I said, I don't know about every state. I can only speak to our state. And the biggest growth as a party we have are the months leading up to the presidential election. We gained like 200. And again, these are small numbers because, proportional wise, there's way less libertarians here than there is in like Illinois. But we gained like 200 registered libertarians leading up to the Johnson 2016. And honestly, this is kind of crazy because Jo Jorgensen got about half of the votes that Gary Johnson did here in South Dakota. And we had a bigger bump in registrations and membership from her. We went up over 300 people.
Well, there's a couple reasons. Yeah, a couple reasons for that. The first is a lot of people get dismissive of Jorgensen's numbers because of percentages. Oh, she didn't get as big a percentage. Well, yeah, that's true, but she also got a lot of votes numerically wise. She was the second highest vote getter ever for the Libertarian Party on a presidential election. But also, whether you loved her or hated her, her campaign focused on party membership. Every event, they said, hey, join the Libertarian Party. Here's how to join the Libertarian Party. Here, we'll go around with forms and sign you up right now. And and so they were pushing party membership. And that was very good. That was a very good thing, and that helped. And we saw a big spike nationally as well.
I also liked how they went on that bus tour, and they let a lot of our local candidates give opening speeches for them when they were out here. Joe was out in Rapid City. Spike did Sioux Falls. Right. Me and Devin got to speak in front of Spike, so that was awesome. And I think that was good. And for the candidates. I'm
going to poke at Spike a little bit and Joe here a little bit and say that was our idea first. We have the Ruff Phillips campaign. We started with that. We started saying that way earlier, and everybody else picked up on it. Hey, and I don't have any problem. We always laughed about that through the campaign trail when we were actively campaigning. Is how other people we picked up some ideas from other people, and other people picked up our ideas. And the longer we were on the campaign trail, the more we were all saying the same thing. And that's great. I didn't have a problem with it. Hey, if we've got a good idea and you guys want to take it on, awesome, because that means that the good idea is going to happen regardless. And some people get bent about it. I just love it. I'm like, yeah, hey, that's great, and we're going to take your good ideas if we see them too. So let's have at it.
No, I thought that was good. It gave a lot of local candidates across the country a platform. And even for me, I'd never spoke in front of that many people. I mean, there might only been 100 people there, but that was still a lot of people for me.
Well, and like the thing we said when we were talking about it, the thing we said was that, and I heard Spike say this too later on, is if we're going to an event, and let's say you're in South Dakota and you're having an event for your candidacy, and you can't get media to come. Well, if you say, hey, and we've got a presidential candidate here as well, they're far more likely to show up. Especially if that presidential candidate's team is also pushing that event to that same media. I mean, just recently, I was at the Oklahoma convention, and they had media come cover the convention because Spike was there, because Spike's team is still working that and reached out and helped them get coverage and help them, get somebody there to cover their convention. And so Spike is still doing it. and I love it. I mean, I not only consider him a good friend, but I am a bit of a fanboy, probably. So,
but he's definitely a big fan of everybody in Sioux Falls is a big fan of Spike, especially. I hope he actually runs for our presidential ticket myself, because I don't know. I think he'd be better. No offense to Vermin Supreme, but I think if they switched places and Spike was the president and Vermin was the vice president, I think it'd be a much more successful ticket. But that's just my opinion.
It's gonna be interesting to me to see. I hope Spike does it too. I think he did a fantastic job, and he's building media presence. He's not going away. I mean, he's showing up on Kennedy all the time, things like that. I mean, if he does it, I'm going to work for him. That's, but it's going to be interesting because there's still a lot of talk about Justin Amash, and maybe some other big names. And so you'll get that whole name recognition thing going on, but now it's going to be interesting because you're going to have a principled libertarian that is building his own name recognition. Yeah, he's not. Oh, he was previously a Republican and had name recognition from that. He is on national media on a regular basis, building his own name. Yeah, and he's going to have, and that's going to throw a little change in there that I hope to see.
Yeah. So I guess we want to talk about some national headlines. Joe Biden recently said that no constitutional amendment is absolute in regards to gun control regulations. What are your thoughts on that?
You didn't see my rampage? First of all, on Twitter, I called him out several times on that. Yeah. And I purposely went through every single damn amendment and said, oh, so this one's not absolute? What's the problem here? All right. So amendments aren't absolute. Let's start with, how about the 13th Amendment? Do you really think that it is okay to say that our prohibition against slavery is not absolute? You fucking twat.
Coming back.
Excuse me. The African Americans' right to vote, women's right to vote. Those aren't absolute. Are you kidding me right now? Oh, and by the way, Joe Biden, you were wrong. You actually can yell fire in the theater. There was a court case on it. It was ruled you can. You're wrong. You suck. You should know that.
Yeah.
Also, my pointed one was just a couple months ago, you swore an oath to defend the Constitution.
Yep.
Perhaps all these jokes about your memory are accurate. If you need a refresher, I'm sure that somebody might have videoed that.
Yeah.
So in case if it wasn't clear, I think he's an idiot. I think he's an ass, and I think he's wrong.
I was thinking about making this post, but I figured I'd get a lot of backlash about it, because I was gonna say that technically Joe Biden is correct. No amendment is absolute. But the right way to go about that is to go through Congress and repeal an amendment.
Right.
The 18th Amendment was repealed. That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolute until you do that. I mean, there is a way to cancel it, but until you do that, yes, it is absolute. That's what it's designed for. That is designed to be the limit. I mean, I see a lot of people, hey, guess what? The income tax is a constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
So you're saying the income tax is an absolute? Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Optional.
And had a little interesting discussion about that versus the 13th with a guy earlier today, because technically, if the 13th prohibits slavery, but the income tax is kind of, that's kind of slavery. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Since we're on the gun control topic, David Chipman was a former Waco ATF agent. Biden wants to promote him to the head of the ATF. Right. Should Congress confirm him or tell him to fuck off?
Not just they should tell him to fuck right off. By the way, I did start the "You Can Fuck Right Off" caucus. I started that the other day. YCFRO. But no, they should tell him to fuck off in the most strong terms and say, hey, guess what? You have killed more people than those assault rifles have in the last 2 years. You personally have been involved in killing more people. So no, go away. Yeah. Not to mention the fact that I think we all can agree that ATF should be a convenience store, not a government agency.
Oh yeah.
Let's see.
Should I say more how I feel and stop sugarcoating my opinions?
The watchdog for the kids. Watchdog.
Yeah.
No.
You're a part of a lot of party caucuses. Do you have a favorite one besides you can fuck right off caucus?
The Waffle House caucus is my favorite caucus. No answer for but. Yeah, there's a lot of argument right now about caucuses in the party and the wars between them. And a lot of people say that's why I don't belong to any caucus, because they think it's crap, all that argument. And I don't disagree with that. I took a different route. I joined all of them that would have me, except for one, which wouldn't have had me, probably would have kicked me out anyway. Despite the fact that obviously I'm not afraid of audacious messaging. There are some people there that I won't associate with. There are some wonderful, wonderful people in that caucus. So anything I say is directly related to a few people in that caucus, not the caucus itself, because there are some wonderful people that I love dearly in that caucus that are great advocates for liberty and great volunteers and great everything. But that's just like any caucus. Everybody gets on about the Mises caucus. Well, guess what? There are assholes in the Mises caucus. There are. Michael Hayes and I will tell everybody the story. The first interaction we had was calling each other dickheads.
It's a libertarian way.
Absolutely true.
That was the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, absolutely true. But there are some assholes in that group. There are some assholes in the LP or the Pragmatic Caucus, however you want to call it, the Pragmatist Caucus. There are assholes in the Radical Caucus. There are assholes in every single caucus. And what happens is people in this caucus focus on the assholes in this caucus and not the lot of other great people in it, but then get mad when people focus on the assholes in their caucus and don't appreciate all the great people in it. And they're all doing the same thing, and it drives me nuts. They've all got great ideas. They've all got great things. They've all got bad things that they all need to get a grip on, or bad actors that they need to get a grip on and, exercise our right to disassociate from. And they don't do it because they don't want to, for whatever reason, they don't do it.
Do you think some of that caucus crap, though, leads to like groupthink?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I saw that firsthand, like in Orlando, when Joe Bishop Henchman got on stage in the chairs debate, and there were a bunch of people in the audience, and I won't say whose caucus they belong to, but they started yelling profanities at him and calling him a piece of shit and this and that, and it's just like, dude.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of groupthink, and it really, honestly, it really bugs me because, like, I'm I work really hard at it, and it's to the point now where it almost comes naturally. Where if I disagree with somebody, I will call them out on what I disagree with. And then when I agree with them, I'll say, look, he's right. I'm well known for doing that with Nick Sarwark, despite the fact that I'm sure he still hates me. Even now, if he posts something and he's right, I'm like, yeah, he's right. The other day I had to call him out for being wrong. Yeah, but tomorrow just a couple days later, actually, I was like, yeah, this is a very good point. He's absolutely right. And so there was a whole lot of hate for him from that same caucus that got to be like that. It was almost reflexive. It was okay, and I'm like looking, I'm going, guys, you're just doing it because you hate him, not because he's wrong. Yeah. And I see a lot of the people in the Prague caucus do the same thing to, they did the same thing to Josh Smith. I mean, I'm not saying he was a great chair candidate. I'm not saying he was a bad one, but even when he was right, they were talking shit. Yeah. And, instead of just acknowledging that he was right. And they do the same thing to each other. And they do, and they, the whole Kentucky tweet thing. Oh, well, that was a Mises thing. And, you can't compare, that to the Holocaust and not, Meanwhile, the same people bitching about it 2 weeks before were complaining about the Mises caucus being Nazis.
Yeah.
Literally saying they were Nazis. And so they were doing exactly the same thing, but no, it's not okay if they do it. I'm not one to pull punches. So I have not been afraid to name names in the past. I watch a lot of people apologize for Jackie Perry, and she's the most hateful damn bitch in the party.
Yeah, she says a lot of fucked up shit.
Right. And she literally told somebody the other day that, if they're an anti-vaxxer, they deserve to die.
Yeah.
It's not okay to say those things, but they no, our group doesn't say those things. Yes, they do. You're going to call out this group for saying it, but you're going to ignore it when they say it. Yeah, not okay. So that's typically when I'm pissing people off, it's because I'm calling them a hypocrite for doing stuff like that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the vaccine or COVID vaccine passports? Everybody's talking about that lately. I know that Kentucky's strongly against. Nevada, I saw they tweeted they're in support of them. So
that's because Jason Smith is an idiot. But that's you blocked me. So how that idiot got elected chair of a state, don't ask me. But luckily he's not in my region, so I guess I can say that. But probably shouldn't, but oh well. I don't pull punches. Like I said, I am totally anti any kind of requirement involving government on the passport. If an individual business wants to do it, I'm still kind of against it because I'm sorry, but the Kentucky tweet was not wrong. Was it in poor taste? I will agree with that, but it wasn't wrong. The reason people are saying it's wrong is because they're saying that, he was comparing it to the Holocaust. It actually wasn't. Yeah. It was comparing it to what led to the Holocaust.
Yeah, here, we can pull up the tweet. We talked about it in our last episode. Basically, Kentucky just said, our vaccine passport is going to be yellow, shaped like a star, and sewn on our clothes.
Right, and that's all right. So that's not killing millions of people. That's what led to that government, that government being able to kill millions of people. That kind of separation. It's also, I also saw another, people like, you can't say that. You can't say, well, yeah, all right, you can, because otherwise you're not learning the lessons of history. Not learning the lessons of history is a problem. Yeah. Maybe it was in bad taste during Passover. Maybe it was. Guess what? I saw as many Jewish people saying, no, it's right, we shouldn't do this, as I saw being against it. And most of the against it was not Jewish people who probably need to not have that opinion. But we got a picture from Israel where they're even comparing the vaccine passport to the same actual Jews in an actual country that only formed because of that Holocaust. Israel was not a country until people said, okay, we can't let this Holocaust happen again. These people remember their history. There's an activist on Facebook who instead said, okay, well, that one's not okay. Very nice black woman compared it to the different water fountains. White water fountains and black water fountains. Vaccinated and unvaccinated. Yeah. It's a valid comparison. Anybody who doesn't see that it's a valid comparison is not actually looking at the comparison. They're looking for a reason to get pissed off. Yeah. So John Hartman says, I'm totally against the government. Our business, it's wrong. Right. And that's why I kind of, I'm kind of like, okay, a private company ought to be able to do what they want, but I'm also old enough to, not really remember, black and white water fountains and things like that, but I'm old enough to remember the country just coming out of that. And now the reason that those things were able to happen was because government allowed it to happen. Government actually passed laws saying that they could do it. I kind of go waffle a little bit on the private business thing. I'm against it, but I could make a case for it. Yeah, but I personally I don't approve. Yeah, I'm against them too.
There's a lot of healthcare providers that do already require, like, say, a flu shot every year. So we've kind of already dipped our toes into letting business.
Kevin Hobby from Oklahoma said it great the other day. He said, and I'm going to quote this wrong, so I'm sorry, Kevin. He basically said, unhealthy until proven healthy is the same is just as bad as guilty until proven innocent, and he's right.
Yeah,
especially for a vaccine that isn't proven to really, it helps, but there's whole lots of debates on it, and even the people who came up with it originally, now they're saying, oh, it's going to be effective, but originally they're saying this might be like the common cold or the flu vaccine. You don't get one flu vaccine and not have to get the flu vaccine again next year. You have to get it again every year.
Yeah. I actually just saw an article the other day, and it blew my mind. I admit I don't read a ton of articles about COVID. I just haven't. But anyway, so there was an article the other day that talked about how one of the vaccines was only guaranteed to be effective for 6 months.
Right.
Now, it could work longer than 6 months, but they're just, because it's unknown or whatever. But I couldn't even believe I was reading that. It's like, so why is everyone taking something that's only effective for 6 months?
Well, yeah. And so they've rapidly run it through with minimized testing and absolved these companies of being able to be sued for side effects and after effects and all those kind of things, which they've done, that's been a long-term policy. That's not a new one, but so you've rushed this vaccine through. We really haven't done that much testing. Side effects are already being shown to be at least worse than we were told.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're horrible yet. I'm not saying, oh my God, people are dying because of it, but we just don't know. And there are some cases that could be argued that perhaps they were, but whatever. But to force us to take a vaccine, I've never, I'm pro-vaccination for most things. I am. But I'm not I'm against government forcing you to do it. There's lots of reasons people might not take a vaccine. They might be allergic to, I know people who are allergic to most flu vaccines. There are people that are sensitive to certain compounds that are in the vaccines. There are people that already have autoimmune issues that make vaccinations problematic for them. Yeah. There's lots of, if you want to have a religious exemption, hey, whatever. But I'm just, like anything libertarian, I don't believe in government forcing you to do it.
Yeah, I was reading on CNN, they're talking about how COVID-19 vaccine might be like mandatory for children to go back to public schools. And I thought that was kind of worrisome.
Which is interesting. Because like right now, like in Illinois, if they decided to do that, that'd be interesting because children can't get it.
Yeah.
You have to be a 16-year-old to get it.
Yeah.
So how are you going to require it to go back to school when you can't get it?
Well, not only that, but like the statistics of the children, when children get it, it's not a big deal, to be honest.
For most children. I mean, occasionally you get a child with asthma, same things.
But I think the number was like 0.1% or something of any kid.
When you and I were kids, I mean, I can go both ways with it. Once again, first of all, let's go back. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this. I am. When I was a kid, if I got chicken pox, all the neighborhood moms were bringing their kids over to my house so they could get chicken pox and get it over with and get it done. For child health, and occasionally a kid would get a bad case of chicken pox and it would hurt them, but most kids didn't, and that's how they did it. Flip side, have you seen Penn and Teller's thing about vaccines? The video.
I haven't.
They did a great video about vaccines, and they don't say that we should be forced to, but hey, if you're saying, and they took, you should watch it. And they take 100 bowling pins and set them up in two things, right? And they say, okay, here's the vaccination, and they put a glass wall in front of it, and they say, okay, one kid's going to get, even if you're right, if vaccines cause autism, if you're right, it's 1%. So let's knock this one pin down. Okay. And then they start throwing balls at each one and saying, okay, this is polio. And that, boom, and knocks over pins. And, it bounces off the glass wall. And, this is smallpox. Boom, bounces off the glass wall. Knocks over a bunch of pins. And so you see that, okay, out of the 100 kids, with the unvaccinated group, something like 20 survive. Mm-hmm. And in the vaccinated group, something like 95 survive. Which chance are you going to take?
Yeah.
It's a good argument. I'm not going to, once again.
John Hartman says, it's a video a while ago, unless it's a new one. It was a good explanation, though. Yeah, and he also said they call the kids super spreaders as the reason for forcing it on the kids.
Right, because kids,
they are.
Kids are kids. Kids are dirty and they touch everything and they're not great about washing their hands and all the things that spread. They're the super spreaders of any disease. That's it's not just this one, it's anyone. And and that's it just is what it is, especially when we force them to go to these government schools and overpopulate the school with 30 to 35 kids in a classroom in inner city neighborhoods and whatever. And you force them into close contact. I mean, you're forcing them to be a super spreader. It's government forcing them to be a super spreader instead of. So,
yeah.
I get worked up. I can go on for a long time.
We all can. It looks like Portland lit their ICE building on fire. I got a little heat for saying that. I didn't care. Portland burns down their federal buildings last year. Is it a NAP violation in your eyes?
At this point, no. Here's my, and I said the same thing in Minnesota during the riots, and that are probably going to happen again if they don't convict this dude.
Yeah.
At this point, it's self-defense. You're revolting against the government. If you're burning down a government building, at least you are targeting the right people.
Yeah.
If you're burning down the local AutoZone, come on, dude. They're not the ones who did it. But if you're targeting the government building, well, hey, we're a country that was based on that. Our country was founded in revolution. I'm not going to get too upset. I mean, I hope that I agree with you on your reasoning. Like the dudes in DC with Trump, I didn't agree with them. But once again, I don't, insurrection might have been a little strong word. I mean, they didn't burn down the building, though some of us might not have objected if they did. But at least they went after the right building, whether you liked what they stood for or not. I didn't, because I thought Trump was an idiot. But let's be fair. Let's be honest. Both Democrats and Republicans cheat on the elections. They both do.
Oh yeah.
And so maybe this time the Democrats cheated a little better than the Republicans did. But last time maybe it was the other way around. If you could,
I can't really respect a lot of that went on in June or January, just because, like you said, it wasn't for the right reasons. It's like the government is basically a fascist organization that infringes on our rights on a daily basis. And the reason you guys stormed DC is because your favorite dictator didn't get elected.
Right. Now, I got a lot of heat back then because I said, listen, like it or not, those people and the Black Lives Matter people had a lot of base causes in common. And that's not true. They're really? Because yes, it is true, because they are both feeling unrepresented by the government. Now, are the symptoms of how they're feeling unrepresented different? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that base symptom of feeling unrepresented and unprotected and uncared for by their government is not the base symptom. There are similarities there. I can say that and still say, hey, the Trump-tards were wrong. And 100% to support the Black Lives Matter people, even though I think the Black Lives Matter people shouldn't have been burning down AutoZones. They should have been burning down the police station and the state house and the city buildings. Or they shouldn't have been burning it down at all. They should actually, maybe instead of having 15-20% voter turnout, had 50 or 100% voter turnout. maybe turn your action to that, because that's how you're going to get real change. But anyway, I got a lot of heat for saying that. I didn't care that I got a lot of heat, because what's the thing about speaking truth to power? I speak my truth. If you don't like it, well, there's a reason that You Can Fuck Right Off caucus exists.
Hell yeah. Let's see. Dan Fishman recently wrote an open letter proposing that the LNC chair be elected to 4-year terms. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually suggested that in 2016.
Okay.
I think that that both the Judicial Committee and the LNC should be 4-year terms, elected all in non-presidential years, because that way you can focus on presidential elections and presidential years. As we saw this year, that was the big appetite for. I'm sorry, Karen Ann. I love you and your passion for platform. But you saw that the appetite for platform was not there with the delegates at the end of the convention. They got their business done that they wanted to get done, and that was it. And so I would like to not have that business interfering, and I would like to be able to, honestly, I would, she would disagree with me on this as well. I have been an advocate for the chair being a full-time paid position. It may never happen. There's a lot of things that I suggest, because I say, listen, just because we hate the Democrats and the Republicans doesn't mean that they're always wrong. And sometimes things they do work. And so having a full-time chair has its benefits. We may not be there yet, but as we go through growing pains and get bigger and bigger, because that's what we're doing, and that's what we should be doing, we're going to need to look to become a more professional organization. And so setting the seeds for that now is a good thing. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, what if we elect an idiot? Well, we do that with presidents, and we still, maybe be more careful with your vote. Maybe if you're going to set it at a 4-year term, include a 4-year term with an avenue for recall.
Yeah.
I think every politician should have an avenue for recall from their position. Unfortunately, not most of them don't. But if we said, okay, we're going to elect the chair to a 4-year term, I would say chair at large, all officers and at large. And regions can make up their own damn mind, because the regions that are semi-autonomous, and we elect our regional reps however we see fit. If you remember, we decided to change Region 6 rules to we're going to elect our chair or our representative by tossing a coin on New Year's Eve. That's it. That's how we do it. We put it in our regional agreement. Everybody signs off on it. And national gets no say in it. And that's how it should be. So I would say any national position, 4-year terms, elected, non-presidential years, because that way you don't also, we see those heat races get heated, and they can actually, those races can make our presidential candidates look bad.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing. So let's separate them.
Yeah, another argument for that I heard was that to save time at the convention. I know you were mentioning that we didn't even have time to discuss platform changes hardly at all.
But can I say something real quick about that?
Yeah.
Because I'm still pissed off about it. Because if you motherfuckers at that convention had listened to me day one, we would have had that fucking problem solved in 5 minutes. Yeah. And we could have had time for everything. I stood up first motherfucking speaker and said, yes, I know you're all pissed off. Here's the solution. Do it, and we'll be out of here.
Yeah, we remember we were there. If anybody doesn't know, that whole first day in Orlando, we basically spent debating on who would be allowed to vote, because there was a hybrid in-person and online. So there's a lot of mistrust going on. And if people would have just trusted each other, we would have, like John said, it would have been done in 5 minutes instead of 8 hours.
Yeah, and actually it was 2 days. We didn't even finish it up till the second day.
Yeah,
and and it was all people not trusting each other and not just taking the easy response. I told them, I said, hey, censure me. If you didn't like the fact that the LNC made this decision, censure me. I will take it. I will absolutely take it. Let's just get this done and move on. If we could get rid of that stupid bullshit, then we would have time for everything.
Yeah. We had Christopher Thrasher on a couple weeks ago. He's on I forgot what committee it is, some kind of voting process for the convention committee.
I think he is on the voting.
And he's proposing to use electronic voting, which would speed up the voting process and help save time. Mm-hmm. We had Miss Harlow's on too, and she says that the bylaws don't allow for electronic voting. What's your take?
They're both correct. To allow electronic voting will require a bylaws change. We actually had that discussion this year, and then for this last convention, and COVID threw all that in the works, or threw a monkey wrench and all that. And so we had lots of back and forth with it. We were, it's something we're going to need to do eventually. It is going to require a bylaws change. We were supposed to be looking at that bylaws change this year. Then the COVID thing threw everything in the works, threw monkey and all those works, and caused us a problem with online conventions versus hybrids versus all this and all that. So it all went away for a cycle. I am fully now. What we could have done, and I believe Ms. Harlow's has said this, and I agree with her on it, is we could have used Scantrons.
Yeah.
Which is semi-electronic, semi-handwritten, because then you have paper ballots and you just scan it, so the counting is much easier.
Yeah.
And the ballot, and so the tabulation becomes much faster. That's really where the problem is: tabulation time. Mrs. Harlow's and her, and it is Mrs. Harlow's. She has corrected many people on that, not Ms. And sometimes I still slip. Her and her team of tellers did amazing work. And I'm trying not to toot my own horn because I was part of that team during the online convention, but not during the in-person convention. And I went up and checked on them after the convention, and they were busting their humps. And, everybody's blaming them for the errors. Most of the errors that got submitted in vote tabulation had nothing to do with her team. It was the people submitting the votes. Yeah. The states made errors submitting their votes one way or the other, including one that was mine. I ended up being the delegation chair for mine and having to submit the votes. And I screwed one up. Now I caught that I screwed it up and went up there and said, "Hey, I screwed that up. I need to fix that." But a lot of states didn't even do that. They just, they were putting, and when they were trying to upload them like they were supposed to, they were uploading them to the wrong place and all kinds of different things. But they bust their butts confirming everything and working and do amazing work. And so some kind of electronic tabulation that would fix that would be very welcome in my book. And that was part of, we had the same problem in 2018. The reason we weren't able to finish everything is because it was taking so long to tabulate the votes. They weren't slacking. They weren't sitting down there twiddling their thumbs. They were busting their humps trying to get those votes tabulated. And, and people want to make it out to be something it isn't. No, it's when you allow approval voting for multiple positions and require 50%, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be tabulation of all that. So unless you can go to an electronic form of voting that will automatically do that, and I know a lot of people, we have a lot of advocates for ranked choice and a lot of for different voting methods. Hey, pick one. I have my favorites, but I'm not going to get in that debate. But electronic tabulation makes tabulating those so much easier.
I got one more question. I don't know if Greg's had any. Do you have any questions, Greg?
Well, I recently heard that you had an interesting city council meeting you went to.
Okay, so let me give you a little background on my city council. First of all,
you ran for city council this year.
I ran for city council twice. This is my second time. This time, I screwed up. Let's just put it. I got a little overconfident. We had to have a primary this time because somebody filed for it, and I got a little overconfident in how sure I was going to make it past. And I had some business problems and some personal issues and some things. that also affected my availability to campaign. So like 3 or 4 weeks before the campaign, or before the primary, I wasn't campaigning for those 3 or 4 weeks. And so I got knocked out in the primary this time. Last time I got 5th out of 8 or something like that. And 3 positions got elected. And I only missed by, like 60 votes this time. I mean, I did well, but, it was my own fault. Which I refunded a lot of people's donations. I said, hey, I screwed up. Here's your money back. Which, by the way, you don't have to do if you didn't know. But anyway, so I've been going to these council meetings religiously for 4 years, 5 years, for a long time. And I speak frequently. Usually I try and be somewhat polite, and sometimes I'm not. This particular one, there'd been, I had missed the meeting before that where they passed an outrageous thing where they're going to put in automatic cameras that identify license plates in one neighborhood. And obviously as libertarians were like, no, fuck that. And then the one before that, at the end of the meeting, the mayor had made an absolutely idiotic comment about when they're going to allow, we don't allow a dispensary here but we don't need to reconsider whether we're going to allow one because nobody's applied for one. Well, so anyway, so this last meeting I went in, I tore into him. I said, first of all, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's not how business works. As David Demarest likes to call me, a serial entrepreneur, I've started multiple businesses. I'm here to tell you that businesses do not sit there and go, oh, well, I'm going to sit here and put all this together to apply for this permit that we don't think the city's going to give us anyway. They don't do it, especially in Illinois where you've got to have a stupid amount of capital. So anyway, so I called her an idiot. And actually, I think I said, how dumb are you? And then they had no, I did not get escorted out of the meeting. I have the right to free speech. Then I talked about the cameras, and I said, people are going to hate me because I compared it to Nazi Germany. Oh no! I said, these are the fascist things that our country has fought against for decades, and now you're embracing it. I said, you're all old enough to remember the Cold War and remember the Berlin Wall. We celebrated the Berlin Wall coming down, and now you're embracing the same bullshit that they did? Yeah. No, I didn't say bullshit. Because I'm going to get to that part of the story in a minute. I called them fascist fools. I did. And then I said they were racists because they were only putting it in a predominantly black neighborhood. Not all over town. And then I said then I called them stupid again for not doing their research because red light cameras and these kind of cameras are, people are suing about those all over the country. And even if they win, it's still millions of dollars in legal fees. So why would you do this? It's stupid. And then so about 2 weeks before the meeting with the marijuana thing that I was talking about, they really pissed me off. Because they've done a bunch of stuff where they've limited public comment. And so they have these study sessions where when they limited public comment in the regular ones, well, you can still talk in the public in the study sessions, except that you can't. In the study sessions, the way they do it is they make you wait till the end. And they've already made their decisions, even though the decisions aren't supposed to be made in study sessions. They've made a decision and issued a directive to the city staff. And so I started off laying into them about public comment again. And, oh, well, no, you need to keep it to comment, and I said, oh, you want to know how this is related to public comment, to this particular meeting? See how many people are still here besides staff? And it was only me. They sat there through your 4-hour meeting. That's how it's related. Anyway, I laid into it. And I started going off, and I had a whole bunch of points, and you only get 3 minutes, and I had a whole bunch of points, and I don't even make it through 3 minutes. I'm just getting hotter and more heated. And I said, you know what? I can't even go on anymore. You guys are fucking ridiculous. And I walk out. I just turn around. I'm walking out, and the mayor goes, sir, we don't use that kind of language here. And I just go, ask me if I care. So at the end of my diatribe this last time. I said, hey, to save the mayor's sensitive feelings, since she didn't like it last time, I'm not going to say it again. But if you remember what I said at the end of the meeting a couple meetings back, it applies again. Yeah. So I don't just get heated online. I get heated in person sometimes too.
That's good. You got to go poke the bear. You got to.
Yeah, but I get to go poke it again because the next council meeting's tomorrow night.
Nice. Who is the most libertarian?
Oh, Jesus. I've been singing his praises all night. I'm going to say Spike Cohen.
Hell yeah. That's a good answer. Well, that's all the questions I have for you, John. Do you have any more questions, Greg, before we bring Uriah on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you got any businesses you want to promote? I know you've been making some knives. They look pretty cool.
All right. I don't want to promote my own stuff. Okay.
I always let people. All
right. So I am making knives. I am donating several of them to different states to do auctions at. Just raised $400 on one in Oklahoma.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want one for your next convention, let me know, and I'll send you one. I mean, it's hard for me to make your conventions because they're short, and it's a long trip for me to get there. Yeah. I was going to do a live thing this time to you again, but then we miscommunicated or whatever, and I was in another convention that weekend anyway. But so I'm doing that, but really I want to promote the work that other people are doing. We've got the regional trainings that Kara Scholes and Michelle McCutcheon are putting together that are amazing. If you can make one, please reach out. We've got staff doing all kinds of things. If you can support staff in any way, volunteer time, you can. The biggest complaint I get about the party is, why aren't you spending money on X? Right? Okay, make your, and so that's why I won't donate to the party, because you're not doing what I think you should be doing with money. Okay, well, make your donation and put for this on it. We have to spend it on it. We do. Especially now that we've got a separate legal fund, so you can actually dip your donation. You could donate twice as much to the party. You can donate to the legal fund, because ballot access is important, and we're trying. And instead of spending thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on ballot access every 2 years, if we can get some legislation changed or some lawsuits done to fix that. I know Minnesota's got their lawsuit appeal is being heard soon. I know
that's how we won in South Dakota, was lost.
Right. So support all these people that are doing things. You guys are doing great things in your state with your cooperation with the marijuana things and all those. I know that, so yeah, I mean, you can support my business. I am selling knives. You can reach out. It's JPGR Designs on Facebook if you want, but really, I just want to support the work that everybody's doing. I'm at heart, I'm an activist. I've been an activist for a long time. I've done activism in all kinds of different fields. And so I want to support everybody else's activism. Spike Cohen's traveling the country talking about libertarianism still. His wife does a great thing as well, even though everybody calls him Tasha Cohen's wife. But Tasha is amazing, but so is Spike. Get them both to come speak to your convention. You won't regret it. Support. We've got a great convention coming up in Reno. Buy your convention tickets as soon as they're available. Reach out and ask the convention committee if you can help. There's just so many different great things going on. Supporting what I do, okay, great, but I want to support what everybody else does.
Hell yeah, John. Well, I think your Region 6 is definitely spoiled to have you as a representative. I'm a big fan of yours. I know Greg's a big fan too. All of South Dakota is a big fan, and I just appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
No, anytime,
we'll definitely
guys. Anytime.
Have to have you back on, because it feels like we just scratched the surface.
Sunday nights are a good time for me.
Yeah.
I have dinner with my dad early in the evening, and then I'm home about the time your show starts. So I'm almost always available on a Sunday night, unless I'm actually physically at a convention. So. Well,
next time we got a juicy topic and we don't have any guests, we'll have you back on.
Yeah, or you want to hear somebody drop the F-bomb a few times and lose their cool for a minute.
Keep the censors on their toes.
That's right. Thanks,
all right,
guys.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man.
No problem. I'm looking forward to your next guest too. So I'm going to stick around and watch that. So.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and the next guest we've got Randy Uriah Luallin. Did I pronounce that right?
No.
No. God damn it, Greg. I asked Greg, and then he told me that's how you pronounced it.
I said Luallin. I'm not sure.
Exactly. It's just Luallin.
God damn it. My bad, dude. I'm so bad at names.
Everything in the book. So don't worry about it, Devin.
Randy was our 2020 U.S. House candidate. He got about 20% of the vote. Good job. What have you been doing since? I know you toured the whole state. You were really busy during the campaign. I think you might have taken a vacation afterwards. Where'd you go on vacation, and what have you been doing since the election?
Well, my wife and I, we actually hooked up a little bitty camper. It's a casita. And we took the dog, a hound dog, and the cat, and it's very small quarters, but we just spent the next 2.5 months driving all the way down south. We drove down through, we headed down through Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and then we hit Florida, made it to the Everglades, which was interesting. And then we headed back up through Georgia, South and North Carolina, and then back through Tennessee and Kentucky.
Nice. That's quite an adventure. What was your favorite stop on that trip?
Wow. I didn't well, I think my favorite stops were meeting with the old friends. We stayed in Florida with an old friend of mine from actually high school, and I had seen him since high school, but that was a great reunion. And then we met another good friend of mine down in St. Petersburg, and then we on the way another friend. When we crossed the state, we came up the eastern seaboard, and we met another friend of mine that used to be a tenant of mine. So
nice.
But the big stop was on the way back was my granddaughter's wedding, and
nice.
And I'm now a great grandfather, twice over.
Congratulations!
So thank you. And that was a great event.
How long were you gone? That was a couple months, wasn't it?
2.5 months. 2.5 months.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, it was well deserved.
Well, thank you. I actually really, my wife and I enjoyed the Liberty Tour. We moved to this state 5.5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, and we've only really known the West River, the Black Hills, if you will.
Yeah.
And so touring the whole state was actually kind of very interesting.
A little more populated over here.
Yeah. Flat Earth. Yeah.
So you were from you moved here from Colorado before, didn't you?
That's true.
And I grew up in
Boulder, Colorado.
And you had actually ran for something big. You had told me before. I'm drawing a blank, in Colorado against the current governor.
Yeah, I ran for U.S. House of Representatives against Jared Polis back in the day. Jared's kind of he started in Boulder, Colorado. He got elected on the school board. He spent a lot of money doing that, and then he worked his way up to several other offices. And then he ran for U.S. House, and he won. And now he's the governor.
Did you ever get a chance? This is just a me fun question. Did you ever get a chance to meet Hunter S. Thompson?
No.
I know he was kind of from somewhere around that area, Woody Creek or something like that. Is the place he called it. He had his own little compound, and but he had ran for sheriff in his little.
That would be on the west slope. Yeah, that would be over by Aspen, I think. I think that's where that happened.
I always liked him. I read a bunch of his political books, 20 years ago. He kind of got me, even though he was kind of a liberal, he kind of got me excited a little bit. He made politics seem fun. You read his books and it seemed fun. He did call Bill Clinton an asshole in one of his books. He said he met him one time, and Bill Clinton was kind of an ass. But
now, didn't he write and they made a movie out of it?
Fear and
Loathing in Las Vegas, or something like that. Yeah, that was a good movie. I like that. Yeah.
But he even had an older book, it came out after that one too. It was Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail.
Okay.
And so he used to follow Nixon and the 60s, the 70s politics, and he had a couple political books, The Great Shark Hunt, and then there was Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, and they just, like I said, they kind of sparked my it seemed fun. If politics wasn't fun, I always try to have fun, because if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it.
Well, yeah, you have to, Greg. I mean, if you get caught up into, you can really get demoralized if you're not careful. Yeah. Especially, I always tell people the worst thing about a democracy is being the minority, and the Libertarians have been the minority for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I think things are changing. I mean, I just read an email from the Libertarian Party, and of the 44% of their candidates won this last election. So that's a good thing. And I think it's on smaller scale stuff like maybe city council. And,
yeah, it still counts.
Yeah.
What was it about the Libertarian Party that brought you to the Libertarian Party, or have you always been a Libertarian?
That's a good question, Devin. The first time I became a Libertarian was I was walking through the student center at Colorado State University, and there was these people at a table just calling people over, read this and what have you. And I read it, and I immediately bought into it. I became a Libertarian right there, and then, but later on, I kind of. In the first Gulf War, in Kuwait, I felt like we really needed to go there, and having been in the military and what have you, I really felt like it was justification for all that. I don't now, but a bully like Saddam Hussein and what have you, and the Libertarians were totally against it, so I changed party back to Republican at that point. for a few years, I was a backslider. And then I came back. I came back around.
I hear that from a lot of people. Well, maybe not a lot, but I have heard that personally, where people are like, I like the Libertarian Party, but that whole non-aggression, they don't like our foreign policy, because they think that the U.S. should be the world police, and they should involve themselves. And one thing people ask, I think somebody at that Spike Cohen, we were talking about his rally, somebody was asking him about China, the great threat of China. So there's definitely a lot of people out there that think that we should be doing a lot more, but
Well, it's interesting you brought that up, though, Greg. I mean, while I'm gonna do the chord here, China, things have changed dramatically. From wars are not going to be won with a Marine with a rifle. It's not going to happen. The next war, there may not even be a shot fired, and which is good. I mean, as far as non-aggression, but it'll happen. It's on a technological scale that is so intense that it's hard to imagine, and we may actually be losing that war even as we speak. And so which poses the problem. Do we want to win that? If we do, I've always been opposed to this massive military budget and the taxes that go with it. But the things that are going to happen in this techno war are extremely expensive, and and a lot of it's going to take place in space.
Yeah, I heard that. I was reading articles back when that Ukraine dilemma was happening, where Russia had like a single engine biplane, and they were able to shut down an entire U.S. destroyer by hacking their computers. And I was like, damn, dude, we need to be like you were saying, like the technology warfare, I think, is going to be pretty prevalent.
There's nothing more dangerous than a Marine and his rifle. Well, there is things more dangerous now.
Yeah.
A lot of future battles will be like subversive or behind the scenes too, because I'm a big subscriber. I think it's Ron Paul pretty much says that countries that trade with each other tend not to go to war with each other. Because if there's a lot of money on the line. Sure. And, China's kind of opened themselves up to the U.S. as far as, obviously we get a ton of crap from China right now. And so, I don't know if I'm honestly too worried. The government always tries to whip up an enemy to fight, and I just don't. I think there's way too many billions and trillions on the table to be going to war, If you think about it, the countries we always try to attack, we don't trade with, North Korea, Iran, things. If you're trading, money makes the world go around.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually just recently bought something from China, and I thought it was a great deal. I couldn't match it anywhere in this country, and so I'm moving along with this whole process, and then it hasn't arrived yet. It's still on the boat.
Slow boat.
Yeah.
And they got stuck in the Suez Canal or something.
No. Yeah. I think it's sitting out in the bay, and they take their time offloading these ships, and the customs is just it's astronomical. Yeah. Particularly some of these things, they'll go through everything, every compartment, every cargo carrier, but what's astounding to me is that all of a sudden I get this bill, this customs tariff bill, and do you know what the percentage was on that, on the merchandise?
How much?
100%.
I want to say 100.
25.
Damn.
Okay, so if you're buying something for $10,000,
yeah,
I mean, my God, it makes it almost unrealistic. Now, I had no idea when I bought the thing.
Yeah,
this is Trump's work, and I'm hoping that, but it's too late for me. Yeah, Biden didn't rescind any of that, so it's going to cost me. But as libertarian, we're all for free trade. I mean, that's where competition is at. That's what keeps things low and it keeps everybody honest.
Yeah.
But this kind of 25%, my God,
Yeah, it's theft.
Yeah. But I want to move back to the China thing one more time. I don't want to overdo
China.
it. Because
China.
Do you guys get Reason magazine?
I read the Facebook when they post on Facebook their articles. Yeah,
it's an excellent magazine, and it's very libertarian.
Yeah,
but this most recent article that I read about China. And it was crazy, as far as military goes. Some of the computer boards and things that we get, even for our most high technological jet planes, the only place we can get them is China. Now think about that a minute. I mean,
Yes.
it only takes one computer board it's missing, and that plane's no good. I mean, and how much is one of these jet planes? And it was part of the Trump plan was he was trying to weed us off a lot of these kinds of things. But it's going to take us years to develop these what they call you probably know what the not precious metals but rare metals and how to mine them, and not that we could probably mine them in this country, but to reduce them into the workable nature. And it's very disastrous for the environment in many ways. And so we were happy to let China do that and screw up their environment. Why not? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very problematic. It's problematic.
Yeah, I've seen some of those lithium mine pictures or whatever online, the big old open face mines and stuff. You know, I actually, a while back, we were talking about it on a podcast. I actually listened to the show one time a couple years ago, and kind of like how you were saying, all these chips and everything are assembled in China. And they were talking about our power infrastructure, are like these big old transformers that power cities. They come from China and are on like a 5-year backlog. So the whole show that I was watching was literally talking about how our electric grid is at risk.
Oh yeah.
And if an EMP or anything like that were to ever go off, like we could be easily set back 100 years overnight, and imagine if you needed to replace some of this equipment that has a 5-year backlog that isn't even made in the United States. You'd have to go to probably the person that dropped that EMP.
No, it's actually quite scary. I mean, all these things that we take for granted now, GPS, all those things done by satellite. I mean, like I said, a lot of the war will be in space. They take out the satellites, we'll be blind.
Yeah.
So it's a sobering thought. Now, does that mean that we're going to go to war? God, I hope not. But our position as the top dog in the world is tenuous at best.
Yeah, I definitely see us being overcome if we don't figure our shit out soon.
Yeah.
As being top dog status.
Yeah, that national debt. I mean, I think that's probably our biggest weakness,
Have you got your check yet?
Yeah. I spent it.
I wanted to get mine before I paid my taxes.
Cheap
so I could pay my taxes with it, I can go, why bother taxing me? You just gave me the money to pay it,
I know, right? Like Biden's talking about in this infrastructure bill, Biden's talking about raising all these taxes and shit. And I'm just like, what does it matter? You're not paying the debt right now anyways. And don't pretend that you are.
Yeah.
So what does it matter if I'm paying this tax or if we raise some corporate freaking tax from 20 to 25? Like, what is that going to do?
Yeah, we just shut down all the businesses.
Makes them feel better.
Yeah. It's like, who are we going to tax if we shut down the country for the last year? Everything's closed now. And I don't know if a lot of it's not coming back.
A lot of it in our travels, and I tell people this, I would look for things like this, and a good deal of the country, the mom and pop stores and retail outlets, they're not only say out of business, but they're for sale. I mean, they're gone, and it's been a disaster, and. But our world is changing. I like to use the word at an exponential rate. That's a great word, but it is so much faster than we saw things change when I was growing up, and even when you were growing up, I'm sure. And it's hard to imagine. I mean, I think about it a lot. I got maybe 15 years left. I mean, come on. I mean, 80s should be the end, right? I mean, pretty much for most of us.
I don't know. I got a grandma that's like 94.
Right, but I don't think I'm going to make that. But so in 15 years, trying to imagine, 30, 40 years ago, it would be easy to imagine what life would be like and how to save for it, how to prepare for it. I don't know how to do that now. I don't, and I don't know what's going to happen in this country, in the world as a whole, or whatever. So,
yeah, I tell you, that's one I would never move. I love South Dakota, and I love living in a rural location, and I love the open spaces and the prairie. Like, you could not catch me living in a city with 500,000, 1 million people right now, because like, I mean, I don't want to be a doomsday or conspiracy theorist, but if shit hits the fan, you are effed. You're effed. You live in that city, you're screwed. There's going to be riots overnight. There's going to be people murdering people in the streets over food and necessities, and no. And I'm not saying that's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years, but it certainly could.
If I am like you, I'm so glad to live here, and I appreciate South Dakota more and more every day, despite the governor. And and a lot of what we went through the Appalachian area. Now, this is an area that, well, when I was growing up, it was considered, these people were considered backwards, inbred, whatever. I mean, when Deliverance came out, it scared the hell out of all of us, we're going, there's really people that live like that? But things have changed. I mean, it has become a real estate mecca for all these people living in the city, and they're all buying it up. They're buying like crazy.
Yeah.
And basically what was kind of a remote backwards place is now congested, and it's just changed forever. Will that happen out here? I sure hope not, but you never know.
You kind of starting to see that around Sioux Falls. You're starting to see that big urban sprawl where everyone's, I mean, we don't really have suburbs, so to speak, here, but like, so people that want to move out of the city but want that little piece of country life, you're starting to see all these houses, and they're $500,000 houses in a lot of cases. They're big, nice houses. But they're kind of popping up all over where, it's they got a couple acres, and then the house next to them's got a couple acres. But I can't fault them for that, because I always thought it was pretty, I always thought it was a little bit ridiculous. You see all these house divisions being built, and you can literally look out your window and see what your neighbor's cooking in their kitchen.
Oh yeah.
It's like, why would these houses are being built like maybe 8 to 10 feet, if you're lucky, between houses, and they're like $300,000 houses, brand new, and it's like, why would you want to live that close?
It's crazy. Now, I grew up in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado. It was a great place to grow up. I mean, completely different than it is today. The metro area, it was there was actually space between the cities. Now they're just all merged. But what we're seeing here in the Black Hills is I'm not sure if I like it or not. I mean, a lot of people are going hooray, hooray, because the real estate values they're skyrocketing.
Yeah.
But we're getting a lot of people that are in Colorado saying, we've had enough, and they're moving up here. And they'll come here to visit. They'll come here to soak in the hot springs. And next 2 days, they're looking for property.
Yeah.
And they're buying it. So be aware. There's going to be major changes in our way.
Yeah, Sioux Falls is the same way. I think like houses have gone up like a lot in value. Like the median house is like $300,000 now.
Wow, they just sold a house. I don't think it was the most expensive house sold, or maybe it was for the year. but it was like a $1.1 million freaking house just outside of Sioux Falls. Heated pool in the basement, freaking blah, blah, blah. It's like,
you gotta wonder what that guy was and what he did for a living, you know?
Well, I always used to wonder that, man. I always used to wonder that. Like, you get down to Sioux City. I lived in Sioux City for a couple of years. You know, Sioux City's kind of got this reputation as kind of this grimy, dirty. It's a working class town, is how I would kind of put it. You know, but you'd see this town. It's called Dakota Dunes. It's right north of Sioux City. It's where, you know, all the well-to-do people live. You know, these are $500,000 houses or whatever. And I just, like you said, I always wondered. It's like you drive by these houses and it's like, what do you do for a living that you can afford this house?
It's interesting you drive. I mean, all my family, well, most of them, and myself included, are Kansas people. Now, now, you know, nobody really wants to move to Kansas, you know, but it's a great place actually. So there's kind of a good kept secret. But what's interesting is you'll go for miles and through these little towns that are falling apart and there's nobody there anymore. Then you'll see this massive mansion out in the middle of nowhere. This guy's farming like 5 sections of land, you know, and massive pieces of equipment. And so he's doing well.
Yeah. Well, I'm not hating on anybody. Go capitalism.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But I definitely always wondered, you know, how did you afford this $5,000 a month mortgage? You know,
right?
Well,
but in a way, you know, people that do kind of put a lot of money into their house, I mean, that is an asset, you know. And so instead of just wasting that money, I mean, you are technically investing that money is one way to look at it.
I don't want to, I know you guys are running the show here, but I've kind of been out of the loop while I've been traveling around and for good reason. And I probably purposely did that. We purposely didn't watch the news and what have you. What is the story with the South Dakota and the people passed? Quiet. The people passed a law to legalize recreational marijuana and medical marijuana, you know, by the people's vote. But then we heard traveling around that the governor was trying to circumnavigate that. Now, whatever happened or is happening?
What's happening right now is the legalization got challenged in court. It went to like the 6th Circuit, I think. And the 6th Circuit ruled that the recreational petition was unconstitutional because it had more than one subject. So they're basically being very strict on what one subject means, because the only subjects was legalizing weed. And then I think they mentioned hemp too. So they're saying like hemp is different than weed. So that's 2 subjects. So that's going to the Supreme Court now. They're going to hear arguments on the 28th of April. And they should actually be deciding whether to overturn that ruling or not this spring. And then the medical petition, Kristi Noem wanted to change a bunch of things in that. There's the Senate and the State House couldn't agree on the changes to be made. So the legislative session expired. So officially, that's going to be up and running in July, intact, unchanged. But Kristi Noem says she's going to call a special session now to bring back the House and the Senate and try to make a couple more like changes. I don't exactly know what the changes are. I think it's regarding like how many plants you can grow in your house or something, and how old you can be before you can get medical marijuana, something like that. The Senate is saying that they're not going to even consider it unless if there's any controversial change, they're not going to consider it at all. So I'm kind of hoping that the House and the Senate don't agree and it just that's the best thing, when your government can't agree, so they can't mess with anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
what's your take, Devin? Do you think that the Supreme Court's going to overrule on this?
I'm really nervous because Kristi Noem has appointed 3, or is it 2 or 3 members of the Supreme Court? And there's only 5. So, but this isn't a weed issue. Like, they're going to be deciding what a single subject is to South Dakota, because that's never been tested in court. So if they're going to be this strict about what a single subject is, nobody's going to put up the money to drive a petition initiative like this ever again, because they can basically just say anything's more than one subject. Because, like, how can you address everything you need to address when you're legalizing weed or something, or whatever you're petitioning for? Sometimes it's addressing more than one subject according to the government. When according to me, it's literally just one subject. I mean, you're addressing, you're check marking everything that have to do with legalizing weed, so you adjust everything. But they're saying, oh, it has to be one subject. So I think
they tried to act like medical was one subject and hemp was one subject and recreational was one subject, and it's like, well, no, my interpretation is the whole damn thing is cannabis.
Yeah, right. Everything had to do with cannabis. Yeah,
but doesn't it kind of beg the question then, if they're going to be that strict, you could look back in time at other things and use that criteria for that and have them thrown out, could you not?
I guess this single subject thing was actually another constitutional amendment that we voted on in 2016 or 2018. 2016, I think. So it's only been up for 4 years. And I think the voters didn't realize it was for us. Like, I think the way that it was worded, they thought it was for our legislators. Like, they can't pass anything worth more than a single subject, because they do that all the time.
They do it all the time.
Yeah. So I think they were confused and they thought it was for that, but it was for us petitioning. And so Kristi Noem saying that she needs to defend the Constitution, and that's what she's doing. And it's like, it's not. You just have a problem with weed, and it's a personal issue for you. And then,
if indeed it was a Constitution, isn't equal treatment under the law? So us and them should be treated the same way.
Yeah.
And another thing, Rapid City. Did you guys see that? The Rapid City district attorney or whatever says he won't prosecute.
For small amounts
marijuana cases anymore.
I saw the McPherson County State's attorney said the same thing a while ago. Hopefully that's still going on. But yeah, I just don't see it, because again, 55% approved recreational, 70% approved medical. I just don't see, like, if you get caught with a little bit of weed, I don't see any jury in South Dakota convicting you unless they're like really uptight. You get a really bad jury. I mean, one of those 12 members has got to stand up and say, nah, dude, we voted for this. I don't care what the interpretation is of this one judge in Hughes County. Hughes County is like the Republican Central. It's like, how is that one judge going to determine? I guess it's going to the Supreme Court now.
Well,
but I'm just
the deal is, though, this gives an opportunity, because if indeed, we had was 70% for one, and what'd you say, 60% for the other?
Yeah, it's like 55%.
Okay, 55%. That's the majority of voters, and that's enough to say, we don't want a governor, after we went to this trouble and we voted for this, telling us that she's not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
So this could be an opportunity for the Libertarian Party, next election, to get rid of her.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's
we
why
definitely need to run a good governor candidate. We have a chance.
She knows that she can't totally ignore the will of the people, because 70% voted for it.
Right.
And she said she's running for re-election, so you can't just shit on 70% of the voters. But what she's trying to do is she's trying to basically come up with these new rules and regulations, and trying to pretend like, well, then, you guys can still have your medical. We're just going to limit you limit you to the amount that you can have and this and that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm apparently the way the law's written. I mean, technically it goes into effect July 1st, but the Department of Health in South Dakota is the one that's actually like writing the rules for it. So
Yeah.
and those rules I don't think have to be written until like October or something like that. They said you won't actually see a medical cannabis card in South Dakota until like October.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we're waiting.
Yeah.
So I guess there's some national. I guess we can talk about a local news story. I saw that since we're talking about housing prices going up, I don't think there's anything in the foreseeable future that they're going to come down because lumber prices are skyrocketing. I saw that the lumber mill in Hill City, South Dakota closed down after the Department of Agriculture suggested Forest Services cut timber production by 50 to 60%. A lot of other mills across the country are short on employees with the COVID restrictions, and stimulus checks are discouraging people from returning to work. How would you approach this issue, Uriah? I've seen that the prices for lumber have quadrupled in the last year.
And I think it's worse than that, Devin. The one person told me, and I don't know how accurate it is, but the National Forest in the Black Hills isn't allowing any timber cutting at all. And now he's wrong about that. And that was the primary source for all the lumber.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a choice. They had to do that. And it falls on through right on down the consumer. Yeah, quadruple. It may be even worse than that. But yet, what's interesting is construction hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
The contractors around here are a year, 2 years out, and people are still. And so the cost went up and didn't seem to bother anybody a bit. They're still constructing, and then will they come down if they do allow timber cutting and if people do go back to work and all that happens? Will they go down? Rarely do things go up and then come back down. Yeah. So how would I pursue all that? Well, I'm not sure what you're asking me. If I was God or
like if you got elected to, let's pretend you're the U.S. House representative. I guess how would you address the issue?
Well, certainly, I would question, and I would certainly visit them. The Department, the Forest Service is under the Department of Agriculture, which is those guys serve at the pleasure of the president. And so what I would have severe questions. I'd have a lot of meetings going. Why are you doing this? Are we out of timber? What is the deal? Who's making these decisions and why?
Yeah, according to the mill that shut down, they're saying that they've planted enough trees to replenish everything they cut down and everything, so that there's not a forest receding issue. I don't live in West River, so I don't know myself. I don't ever see the forest. So, I'm an East River dude, so I don't know myself. But I'm leaning towards believing the Hill City lumber mill versus Joe Biden myself.
Hey, I tell you what, it's time to diversify and join the future. That Hill City lumber yard should be making hemp products from here.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered. It's like, I wonder if maybe part of the whole timber production being down, and then since it's down, it's costing more because if you reduce the supply, the price tends to go up. But, I keep seeing, hemp's so versatile. They got hemp concrete, they got hemp products, paper products. It maybe just, I don't have anything that backs this up, but maybe we're actually seeing some of that increased hemp usage to make this stuff that's actually reducing demand, or maybe not demand, but supply as far as the wood products.
Well, that's true, Greg, but we're not growing enough hemp to even marginally make up the difference at this point. We've been so tied into lumber for so long, and I'll tell you what, driving through the South,
Arkansas has a lot of lumber.
Oh, all the southern states. If you drive through Kansas, you see wheat. You drive through the southern states, you see lumber. You see trees. I mean, they grow them on a massive scale.
Yeah, we drove through Arkansas a couple years ago, and I was surprised how many lumber. You just see the trucks on the road that got the huge trees on the back of them, and then and it'd be nothing but trees as far as you could see, and then all of a sudden you'd hit an area, and there'd be like maybe a 5-10 acre where it was bare.
Right.
And then it would be nothing but trees.
Little saplings growing up, and they grow them just like wheat. I mean, it's all in rows, and they're perfectly straight. And but yeah, it was interesting to watch because the entire makeup of the land down there is completely changed.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so yeah, I don't know if there's if somebody has just made that decision for an environmental reason, or did they make it because we truly are? But like you're saying, Devin, I mean, they're saying we've replanted such that we won't run out.
Yeah.
So who's behind all this? I don't know.
Looks like you're gonna have to come out of retirement and get back to the stonemason business.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm about building another house here in town. I bought some land, and
building's too expensive.
I'm just hoping that sand won't go up. So we can make block and mortar and all that stuff. So
I tell you what, I actually have read some articles that they say that gravel, because it's used in so much, is actually in short supply, or it's becoming rarer and rarer, something like that. It's like, huh?
Really, I have a hard time with that because I mean, it's all our roads and everything. I mean,
but they use it for everything.
Rock.
Yeah, they use it for everything.
Yeah,
I have noticed some gravel pits opening up around here, actually, that a couple years ago they didn't exist.
Right. It's big business.
Some pretty big national stories. I don't know if you've heard about these yet, Uriah. But Biden recently launched an airstrike on Syria. He's also proposed extending the war in Afghanistan. He has a May 1st deadline to make a decision on that. What's your take on these 20-year-long wars in the Middle East?
Oh, I mean, I'm a child of Vietnam, and I think that we've been in nonstop undeclared war my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's over half a century. And that needs to end. And this longest war, the most recent one, and it hey, I'm going to reflect here a little bit. I've got friends that they really trust the government, and whatever the government says. I said, well, you watching out for those weapons of mass destruction? Because they told us that too.
Yeah.
And in the end, it cost us billions and billions of trillions of dollars and millions of lives, most of them civilian.
Yeah, I think $6 trillion has been spent so far in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think it's funny how Joe Biden, as a vice presidential candidate for Obama, their whole campaign was, we're going to end the wars. And yet here we are, a whole nother president later, and he's talking about extending them again. And it's like, dude.
Well, even Trump said, where he actually was going to pull them out, and he made efforts to end the conflict in Afghanistan, and I don't know how he ever thought that he could.
It's my understanding that when Trump left office, there is actually an agreement on the table that we are supposed to be leaving Afghanistan in May. 1st. And the only way we're staying there is if Biden says we're staying.
Right.
So this is 100% going to be a failure, all on his shoulders if we don't leave on May 1st. And I was going to reference Iraq. I really think that, I mean, even if you're not anti-war, you know, a lot of people, non-libertarians, they talk about borders and, oh my God, borders, and we need to control our borders and stuff. Well, imagine a sovereign territory tells you to get the fuck out of its country multiple times, passes resolutions for you to leave, and your ass just keeps staying there.
Yeah, it's wrong.
And like it's all just legit and it's all legal, and it's like, no, you guys have been asked to leave multiple times by the government, by the Iraqi government. They don't want you there.
Right, right. And this is part of this policeman of the world kind of thing. And it's good if you have the ability to stop a bully or whatever. But I mean,
you become the bully. I think
become the bully. Yeah. And I'm going to add something even worse than that. I read this in Legion magazine, and it just, I'm just sickened by the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about Afghanistan and that we should be gone. I mean, the Soviets were more than happy to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But when we went into Afghanistan, we leased an old Soviet base in Azerbaijan on the border. It's called K2. Nobody's supposed to know about it. But we sent people there for 3 or 4 years, and that base was so polluted by the Soviets, with nerve agents, radiation, jet fuel, everything you could think of. The water glowed, and we took over. We sent our people there, and over 50% are coming back with cancers and things that they've never even heard of. And the VA won't treat them.
Wow. It's like Agent Orange all over again, it sounds like.
Oh, it's worse. It's far worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm deeply saddened by it.
I did hear about like open pit burning on a lot of these foreign bases.
Oh, we do it in this country too, I think.
Basically nuclear material and all types of other stuff like you mentioned, you know, nasty stuff. And they're burning it right next to the soldiers.
The military does not obey any of the EPA regulations.
That's another thing. You'd think the military would be a big polluter with all those Humvees and tanks running around, but you never hear Democrats talking about wanting to cut the military budget. They're actually proposing to increase the military budget again.
It's all part of this, the fear, and also some founded, some unfounded. With China, I think it's a crazy world we're living in, guys.
Yeah.
But to your point, you know, we definitely don't.
And most of us don't even have enough access to information to even know the answer.
Yeah. What were you saying, Greg?
Point, you don't even. What a damn dog was barking outside. Got me distracted.
My dog was barking too. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, but to your point, you know, we send our men and women off to fight these never-ending, endless wars, and we don't even take care of them. I mean, you want a perfect example of that is look at how we treated those National Guard soldiers that went to our nation's capital. That you saw those pictures of them sleeping on hard concrete floors, and it's like this is America. You're in Washington, freaking D.C.
Yeah,
the lap of luxury, basically, and you can't put these guys up. You can't get them beds. You can't
let them sleep in the White House.
Exactly. Well, I mean, they in their rucksack. I'm sure they have an air mattress, but maybe they didn't bring it. I don't know.
You're an old military guy. If you had your choice, sleep on the ground or sleep on concrete or marble,
I would sleep on concrete if I could help it.
No.
Let's see. Biden recently said that no constitutional amendment is absolute in regards to gun control regulations he's pushing. He's currently issued executive orders to ban pistol grips. What are your thoughts on that?
Like I said, I grew up in Boulder, and you probably heard about the shooting in Boulder at the grocery store.
Yeah, that's why they're pushing the regulations now, is that Boulder incident.
Well, and I have this discussion with my wife all the time. I mean, whether AK-15 or whatever type of weapon you're talking about, I just can't bring myself to be naive enough to think that any such regulation is going to keep these weapons out of the hands of the same people that are using them now for the same thing. It's like prohibition. I mean, did they really think that they're going to stop alcohol consumption? I mean, the law.
They did think that.
They were going to stop narcotics. Do you really think they're going to stop these hideous crimes? I've got a friend. I've got many friends who live there, and their reaction to it was, well, we need these laws. I said, think about it for just 1 minute. I mean, even if you're a depraved individual like this individual was, he's not stupid. He didn't go to his neighborhood grocery store in Arvada. He went to the gun-free zone in Boulder.
Yeah,
because there's nobody's going to oppose him. So it's not, prohibition didn't work. The gun laws are only going to stop decent human beings from participating in that kind of thing. I mean, I can't. I don't think how you can be so naive to think that a law is going to stop that.
Yeah, and like the pistol grips, basically they just increase your accuracy. So that's basically harming people who don't commit, non-criminal people, from being accurate in their weapons when they're using them to defend themselves against people. It's not gonna, like, criminals are still gonna get their pistol grip or whatever they want on the black market. So I guess that's my take on it.
One thing I heard about that Boulder or that recent Colorado incident, and I've heard it about a couple other incidents, is these people are already on the government watch list and they shouldn't even be getting the guns to begin with.
Yeah, that guy in Boulder was being investigated by the FBI, and it's like, okay, so
then how do you pass the FBI background check?
If we already have laws on the books that forbid people like that,
and they're not working. Yeah.
Now, it's just an old libertarian thing. You've probably heard it, used it, but laws don't stop anything. I mean, thou shalt not kill has been around a long time. People still killing. Thou shalt not steal. People still steal. The laws only determine who's responsible when they're caught.
Yeah.
But the law doesn't really stop anything. And so maybe they should just make the penalty for the crime higher. I don't know. That's my take on it. I can't be that naive to think that another law is going to stop anything. I mean, I spent some time in Australia, and I worked over there for a little bit. And Australia was successful in taking everybody's weapons away, except for a limited amount of hunting weapons or whatever. Even then, I think it was very limited, or they had to register them or whatever. But they took them all away. And do you think that any mass shootings have happened over in Australia?
I'm guessing.
Yeah, of course they have. Where did they get the weapons? They took them all away. Of course they. because there's always going to be a black market.
Yeah.
I said the only way you're going to stop any AK-15 from being in possession, you have to stop producing them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who produces them and for what reason? The U.S. government. So there's always going to be a black market. There's always going to be loopholes. There's going to be ways for them to get around. So yeah, let's not be naive about that.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the government that tries to limit our arms usage and owning firearms while they're supplying the whole entire world with arms and arming terrorists by default. Heck, we had that Fast and the Furious program under Obama where they were arming cartel members with ARs, like
50
or
caliber rifles. Yeah.
Government's just terrible at its job, but people want it to continue to do more.
Watch out for them weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, that's why ammo prices are just so high, because the government keeps getting these high, big ass contracts to buy ammunition. So all the ammunition manufacturers are selling bullets to the government, not the public.
I saw a meme. I think it was a meme, but anyway, it was kind of funny. It said, watch the government makes a regulation that makes buying 1,000 rounds at a time illegal, right? But now watch the gun stores start selling 999 rounds.
Yeah,
it's like where there's a will, there's a way. You know, there's a workaround.
I want to believe. I always felt like instead of more laws and what have you, I always felt like education was the best recipe to stop a lot of this stuff. Even if we have to, we used to think that ethics and morality should only be taught at the church and at home. But that's not happening a lot of times, and people aren't going to church, and it's not being. And maybe that ought to be part of the school criteria. Is be a good person, love thy neighbor as thyself, whatever you want to call it. Be honest, be upright.
Yeah, I definitely think schools should teach like an honest history of U.S. government. Myself and the banking history too. I think people should know like exactly how the banking industry got to where it is now, where they can just make money out of thin air. You know, like they only need 10% of the money on their books to be in safety or like savings accounts, and then like they can loan out 10 times as much as that to people and make money off something they don't even have.
Yeah.
Well, I think it wasn't it Biden, Devin, that said that the founding fathers were right in that local governments, state governments have to balance their budget, but the federal government, no.
Yeah.
They said you had to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're talking about, I don't know if you've seen it yet, they're trying to pass a $3 trillion. Now, this is after all the COVID. There's like $2 trillion COVID relief packages. Now they're talking another $3 trillion package for infrastructure. There's a lot of debate on some of the things in there that have nothing to do with infrastructure. But the thing about South Dakota that comes up.
That'll be my comment, because I don't know a whole lot about that, but I've heard that what's contained in that bill isn't remotely close to infrastructure. I mean,
yeah. And there's actually, they're giving $80 billion if this were to pass to this Amtrak train, passenger train company or corporation. And they've got, I'll put the map up here. Here's their plan if they get this $80 billion in this infrastructure plan. And basically, it would cover.
I can see that.
Yeah, it covers every state except South Dakota, and even like Wyoming gets Cheyenne, so they get like just over the border. They got a station, but South Dakota is getting completely ignored in this.
We're left out.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts on this $3 trillion package? Is that too much? have they spent too much money already? I mean, you probably already know your answer as a
Yeah,
libertarian, but
I'm bound by the rule of law to give you my answer. No,
Public record.
any amount of money, any amount was probably too much. I don't think I'm alone in this, but I think that the whole the pandemic, the COVID-19 thing was if not been that we were duped, but it horribly mismanaged. We have brought the economy to its knees, and do we think that we're just going to keep writing checks and we're going to make that all right, and we're going to make people feel better about it? Sometimes you have to just live through these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see their deficit and our debt is definitely a national security threat. I think it's the biggest national security threat we have. How are we even going to fund if we needed to, have a war against somebody, like even like a legitimate one to defend ourselves? Like we're being invaded, like they're storming the beaches of Los Angeles. We need to defend ourselves. How can we afford it if we're $30 trillion in debt? Like, what are we? There's like we got to do something.
Well, Lincoln. Well, it wasn't Lincoln, but it was his secretary, his treasurer of the Treasury, that came up with the idea during the Civil War. Instead of borrowing money, they came up with greenbacks. They called them greenbacks, and which was an amazing idea, because borrowing money, then you accumulate interest, and it could be a bottomless pit that you can never get out of. But somehow we didn't learn from that.
I've said it.
Go ahead.
I've said it a couple times on this. No, I've said this a couple times on the show. With all these bailouts, and stimulus checks, and infrastructure spending, blah 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 blah. It's like any excuse to just pass a $2-3 trillion spending bill. They will use, but I've kind of wondered if we're not on the verge of like universal basic income, UBI.
I think that's what they're trying to push too, because it seems like
every couple months they want to do a check, and then they want to give people with mothers that have kids, they want to start writing them. I've heard proposals where they want to start giving them X hundred of dollars every month, and then it's just kind of like, if the government's going to do that, then are we just not going to charge child support anymore? Because the government's literally trying to be your parent,
No doubt, Greg. And the problem is that for those of us that have worked hard and saved and for retirement, I mean, our money is becoming more and more worthless.
Yeah.
Almost at a greater rate than we can produce more through investments and what have you.
Make you dependent on government,
And but I've always had we think about all these things and almost like a conspiracy, but I just don't believe in my heart that there's any man or group of men that brilliant, they would hatch up a diabolical plan of this nature. And this is complete ineptitude. It is ineptitude gone crazy on steroids. And
it's compounding ineptitude.
Compounding ineptitude, and which we've seen it, but it's growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
Because I really don't think there's anybody that smart enough out there to hatch this kind of plan. I really don't.
it's hard not to get frustrated right now
Yeah.
when you see the government with this amount of debt, spending this amount of money, printing this amount just out of thin air. You know, it's hard not to get I don't know what the word disillusioned, or it's like it's hard not to just say fuck it. What can we do?
Well, exactly.
There's nothing we could do. You know,
in my case, I mean, 15 years, maybe I can weather through it, but there's probably going to be a correction at some point. And and of a nature that we probably have never seen before. I mean, I always look to history and go, okay, well, this is what happened in history, but nothing like this has ever really happened on this scale in history. So we really can't predict what's going to happen.
The fall of Rome.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Maybe the fall of Rome is the last time.
Well, I mean, yeah, and think about it. Rome lasted 400 years. We are at 200 plus.
Yeah, 250 about. 250.
And the last 100 years of Rome was pretty tragic, even then. So maybe we're not going to last as long as Rome did.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
I got two more national stories. Well, I got three, I guess, technically. So the Democrats control Congress now. They control the presidency. And now there's a big push for them to end the filibuster in the Senate so they can hammer through their policies while they have total control. What are your thoughts on that attempt to end the filibuster in the Senate? If those who don't know, basically that's where the Senate, I guess back in the day, you used to have to actually talk. Yeah, you just have to stay up there, get nonstop, no bathroom breaks.
And I guess you could bring in somebody else who would take over, and you could,
and then you just talk until the deadline for the session ended, and that was that. They couldn't pass anything. I know they changed the rules so you don't actually have to talk the whole time. So I don't know. I kind of like the talking aspect. And I think things, if they're trying to ban guns and stuff, I feel like I can count on enough senators to stand up there and talk.
Well, like you said earlier, Devin,
as long as it takes.
I like gridlock. I like the gridlock, but the only time gridlock sucks is when it's something you want to pass.
Right. Exactly. And, and this could be something to come back to bite them if they actually do that. Because
they won't like it 4 years from now when you got when you have a Republican controlled legislature and a president,
Yeah.
There was a reason for it. The reason started in the first place, and if you don't have a vast majority to vote for something, I mean, that becomes problematic right there. I mean, simply 51%.
Yeah, they're trying to pass. That's what they're trying to do to get their gun regulations passed. There's some other things they're trying to do. They're trying to add Washington, D.C. as a state and give them 2 senators. And they're also trying to increase how many members are on the Supreme Court. So these are like big changes, in my opinion, that would affect the government and like change, the balance of power. They'd be able to stack the Supreme Court with as many judges as they want, theoretically.
Well, Roosevelt tried that. It was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Even people in his own party were against it.
Yeah.
So hopefully people in the Democratic Party will stand up and say, no. We're not going that route.
Yeah. They were using the filibuster under Trump, so it's like, now that you're in power now you want to get rid of it. It saved your ass a few times on the things that you didn't like Trump was doing.
Right, exactly. So so there's reason for those things to happen, but anytime you just have this marginal majority and you're trying to push something through, there's a reason why these things are in place,
What about Washington, D.C.? Do you think
keep the filibuster?
Yeah. Do you think Washington D.C. should be a state, or do you think they should be absorbed by Maryland or Virginia? Or a lot of people feel that it's unfair.
It is. The District of Columbia is the seat of the federal government, and their mayor, their council, and the way they direct the city is one thing, but that is a set apart. It's always been that way. It's a special dispensation.
Yeah, I think it'd be dangerous to have a state that literally is the federal government. It's like, no.
Let's think about it. How big is that? What is it? 5 square miles?
Yeah, it's a couple square miles.
Come on, really? 2 senators?
Yeah, they get their senators. They get some house representation.
Their claim is that Washington D.C. is technically bigger than South Dakota, and
that's what they're saying.
Well, population-wise.
Yeah, but absorb but with their claim that we don't have representation. Well, I don't know why Virginia doesn't represent you. Like that's where you are.
It's like, how about you move all the federal government buildings to South Dakota then, and then I wouldn't mind you being a state, whatever, and then South Dakota would have the president live in South Dakota and everything. Yeah. Like, how would you feel about that? You wouldn't like that, would you?
Neither one of them. I don't know who's behind that. I don't know what their purpose is or what they intend to achieve with that. But
I think because it's an urban area, they figure it's a liberal stronghold, and they could get a couple more Democratic senators in there. This is my guess.
What we need is more Libertarians in there, and that's good. We need to shift the balance of power into where neither any party can take control.
Yeah.
I tell you, one place, if I could choose, I would forget Washington, D.C. We should allow Puerto Rico to become a state. I mean, we've basically governed them for the last 50 years.
I don't think they want to. I think they
they voted in.
They do?
Voted in favor of it, I thought.
No, they haven't. No, and I've talked to many Puerto Ricans. I've traveled around there quite a bit.
Oh, because they don't have to pay income tax.
That's right. They're happy with what they got.
They get all the benefits.
Right now, their budget problems are worse than I think probably the national government. But I'm operating under the impression that none of that matters. It's like debt doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Printing doesn't matter. None of that matters, like as libertarians, we do think it matters, but there's something disingenuous about it. If I have a Republican standing here telling me that, well, we can't add Puerto Rico because they're in a debt crisis. It's like freaking the United States is in a debt crisis. Exactly. What's interesting, Puerto Rico was a product of colonization, which we were supposedly against, Of course, we did it all across the West, but we, and it failed horribly in the Philippines. But if you ever go down there, I mean, they have been a territory of the United States for since 1898 or something like that. I forget what the Spanish-American War was. Okay, over 100 years.
Yeah.
They still speak Spanish. That's their predominant language.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that tell you? They're happy with being who they are, and they enjoy the benefits that come with being a territory, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with being a state.
Yeah.
They sound pretty libertarian. Maybe if they did join, we'd get some libertarian candidates in office.
I forgot about they don't pay that federal income tax. I once worked with this guy from Puerto Rico a few years back, and he had done this multiple times, but he would just come up here and work for 3, 4, 5 years, and then he would go back home and be able to live for however many years again, and then maybe come back up here for a couple years, because just the the money difference. You know what I mean? Is
Right,
you can make way more up here.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Speaking of colonization, I don't want to talk. I don't want to get into religion too much. But every once in a while, we'll watch these documentaries on, the history's written by the winners for sure.
It is. It definitely is.
But they'll be talking about how the Spanish people went to Mexico and converted the Aztecs and this and that. It's like, you guys fucking enslaved those people and murdered them to get them to convert to your religion. Like, that's a pretty rosy picture you're fucking painting of you destroying the whole goddamn.
Well, it's worse than that. I mean, they basically
robbed them.
Well, and they bred them. The whole mestizo thing, they came in and basically impregnated every woman they could. So they almost spread out any purist, any kind of tribal or nationality, if there was one. Yeah, it's ugly. The whole thing's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't happen in a libertarian world.
Yeah. I guess my last question is vaccine passports. Everybody's talking about these lately. I don't know if you've heard about them since you've been on the road, but I guess the government's talking about issuing everybody who's got the COVID-19 vaccine a passport, and then you'd show your passport to like businesses or the airports or whatever you're trying to do. And if you didn't have a passport, they wouldn't let you in.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's very troubling to me.
Yeah.
I've always liked to travel, and it may be the end of my traveling days because I personally don't intend to get vaccinated. But that's just my choice.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that I'm somewhat intelligent.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I've been reading. Yeah, I've been reading too many people saying that all the side effects they've been having and these are like the people I know on my friends list on Facebook, so they're like real people, and they said the side effects are worse than getting COVID itself. So yeah, right. I'm definitely on team not get the vaccine myself. Also,
but I'm reading other things about that whole the mRH things that they're injecting and that they're working with, and it's never been done before. And I think it's way too fast. They're rushing this whole thing, and I'm backing off. If I can't travel, well, I'll stay home.
Yeah, but
I'm against that. If that's what you're asking, Devin.
I think it's similar to. I guess, a lot of people don't like the comparison, but I think it's similar to Nazi Germany, show me your papers, and I'm not about having to show my papers to travel.
Exactly.
Like at all. That's not American.
Papers in order.
Do you have any more questions, Greg?
So what's the future hold for Uriah Luallin? What do you got going on? Well, sounds like you might build a house.
Yep. I bought a piece of property, and I'm working on it. It may take me a long time, but I'm working on it.
What kind of house are you going to build? Anything?
Block. It's going to be block. Yeah. I wanted to build it out of stone, but nobody around here will sell me any stone. They hoard it, and I'm going, well, fine. I'll just go with block. I mean.
Prototype hempcrete? Are you gonna?
Yeah.
Well, if they had a hempcrete plan, I'd do hempcrete, but it's going to be kind of a split face block, probably a combination with some brick and what have you. It'll be attractive, I'm sure.
All right.
Do you have anything that you want to promote before we close the show out? Do you have any? I know John Phillips had a knife story selling knives. I don't know if you have anything going on, any side projects or anything.
Well, I'm almost done with my third book.
Oh, nice!
You're an author, yeah. I forgot.
I wrote a book. I wrote a sequel. I'm almost done with the second sequel, and I think it's going to be great.
Nice.
Science fiction, isn't it, or no?
Yeah, it's science fiction. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. When do you think that's going to be published? This year, you think?
I'm on chapter 23. Working on chapter 24. I bet you there's maybe 5 more chapters and it'll be done. So
Nice.
Give me some
looking
time.
forward to it.
Yeah.
And that's you can find information about that on your website.
I think so. It's Maroons, A Human Epic is the first book. It's an apocalyptic event. And then the first sequel actually was a story form of the religion I invented.
Nice.
So you're a freaking
so you're like J.R.R. Tolkien right here.
Yeah, exactly. And this last one, the second one was called The Journey. Maroons, The Journey, and that was a good book. I really enjoyed writing that one. This last one's called Maroons, Miscegenation.
Nice.
The joining of all the races, and so it's interesting. It's got a lot of libertarian stuff in it.
Awesome,
Nice.
dude. It sounds like a good read.
How do we get a signed copy? How do we buy it?
You can get it on Amazon. Yeah.
I'll buy it on Amazon, and I'll be in Rapid City in July, and I'll have you sign it.
I'd be happy to do so, Greg.
All right.
Yeah, you coming to Freedom Fest?
That one's in Sioux Falls, right?
Rapid City, actually.
Rapid City.
So it's
I
a
got
big
the brochure.
Yeah, it's a big organization.
I think I saw that. It's like
July 21st to 24th.
$500 or something, isn't it? Or something?
It is a little. We have a special $100 off coupon, but it is like $300. Yeah.
I would consider that. I mean, I thought 500 was a little bit too steep.
Yeah.
I thought. But,
you get a South Dakota discount and a Libertarian Party South Dakota discount, and then I guess the code for that is FF21LPSD. If you type that in when you're
I'll get back
the
with you
website.
on that, Devin. Have you been getting a lot of people signing up?
I don't know how many people have signed up. We've been
that's
promoting
not
a lot.
through us. That's not through us. They just we got really lucky, and they gifted us a booth there. So the Libertarian Party of South Dakota will have its own booth at that event. So we'll have some T-shirts and some other stuff that we can sell and promote the party. But one thing, regardless, like if you know, a lot of people were concerned about the cost of that Freedom Fest. We can't do anything about that, obviously. But
right.
We were thinking we would try to schedule like a LPSD like meetup, like one of those days that we're out there. So like for sure whenever we get that scheduled, like Friday night or Thursday night, we'll have a little meetup, have a couple drinks, you know.
Sounds good. You know, we're a pretty tight group, you know. There's not a whole lot of us.
You gotta be.
So it's good to see you guys. It really is.
Yeah, dude.
Congratulations. Greg being the chairman now, and we look forward to good things. And Devin, thank you for all the things you do.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to see what Greg does too in the next 2 years. I have high hopes, though. Greg's a workhorse. He's a Clydesdale. He gets stuff done. So
Devin's gonna force me to work. So
well, yeah, we'll have to have you come on again sometime. You've been a great guest. Great turnout in your election on 2020.
Thanks for running for U.S. House.
Help winning us ballot access for 4 years. So
it's right. That was a great experience, and I got to meet a lot of really cool people.
For sure.
Hell yeah! Well, you have a good evening, Uriah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Yep. See ya. All right, that's the show. If you liked content today, please like us on Facebook, Hedgehog Watchdog Podcast. We're on Twitter, Hedgehog WDog. Subscribe on YouTube. We're also on iTunes. I guess I should update this graphic sometime. So you can listen to us on iTunes. Yeah. We're also on the. Oh yeah, go ahead, Greg. Okay, I'll finish real quick.
Yeah.
Damn it. We're also part of the Free Speech Media. Oh yeah, here's the updated graphic. We're part of the Free Speech Media Network. You can check them out on DLive, Trovo, and Facebook as well.
I just wanted to say
HedgehogWatchdog.com. Check out our store if you want to help us. Everything basically goes right back into production. I know Greg wants a new microphone headset, so buy some t-shirts from us. help Greg get a new microphone.
Yeah, I just wanted to say next Sunday we have former state senator Laura Ebke joining us.
Woo!
She does a lot of stuff. She's the chair of the Pragmatist Caucus. She works for the Platt Institute. Just a lot of stuff going on. So we'll talk to her and see what she's all up to.
Yeah, and then we got some more. Do you want to talk about? We got George Hendrickson coming on the week after that.
Well,
Greg's
we got a big month.
Yeah, Greg's organized a roundtable of all the chairs of all the states, and that's going to be sometime in May.
Just for Region
early
6.
May. Just for Region 6,
not all of the states.
We'd have to upgrade StreamYard and handle that many people.
So I'm really looking forward to that, but I'm hoping it's not a complete shit show because anybody that's watched enough podcasts knows that if you get too many people trying to talk at once, it can kind of be a mess. But
we'll just be like Sarawak and mute everybody.
maybe Devin can be like the moderator. We can kind of treat it like a debate and just kind of.
Yeah, that's how I plan on handling it. I figured I'd let you take the reins of hosting it, and then I'll be back behind scenes. I'll pop in if I need to, but I'll be making sure everybody's audio is working, and I'll make sure everybody's on screen who's actually talking, and all that jazz. Pull up whatever anybody wants pulled up if they want something shared. But it should be a good show. And I don't know if you missed it because we kind of went through it quickly, but we'll be at Freedom Fest in Rapid City. That's July 21st through 24th. You get $100 off if you put in the code FF21LPSD. That's for Libertarian Party of South Dakota members. And obviously, if you're from South Dakota, you get another discount as well. So that'll bring the ticket price down a lot. We hope to see as many people there as possible. George Jorgensen, Justin Amash will be speaking. Also, we'll have Tracy Quint and Colin Duprell will be speaking. Tracy is our Sioux Region Regional Coordinator. Colin's our Vice Chair. I believe Tracy's running for governor. So, Christy's got some competition coming her way.
Yep.
But,
it should be fun.
I feel like I'm forgetting to plug one thing, but I can't.
Check out Free Speech Media.
Yeah, freespeechmedia.com. Check out our website. But we'll see you guys next Sunday at 7 with Laura Ebke. See ya.